Adu buayu lemaskani baru del huni malgu tadashmaya.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Andrew Missick. Welcome to this episode of Voice of the Word. And in this program, we are going to look at the Beatitudes in Aramaic.
Jesus was an Aramaic-speaking Jew of the Middle East, and the Assyrians are Aramaic-speaking Christians in the Middle East who have endured persecution for over 1,000 years. Join Voice of the Word Aramaic Bible teacher, artist, and author Stephen Missick as he examines the Bible through the ancient languages, peoples, lands, cultures, and times in which it was first revealed. Research the Scriptures, rescue persecuted Christians, and restore the Church to its Semitic roots. And now, Voice of the Word.
And what I have here is a translation. This is the most recent translation this is edited by George Carras, from the Aramaic into English. So what we have here, it's called the Antioch Bible. This is the Syriac English New Testament. And what we have here is, you can see on one side we have the Syriac Aramaic script, the actual Peshitta Bible, and here on this side we have a modern translation into English. So I'm going to read the Beatitudes, and I'm going to have a little bit of commentary, and then I'm going to introduce and play a reading. So let's go. Chapter 5 of the Gospel of Matthew. This is the Sermon on the Mount, probably the most famous, consequential sermon ever preached. And let's begin. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountain. After he sat down, his disciples approached him, and he opened his mouth and began teaching them. And here are the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the mourners, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the humble, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for mercy will be upon them. Blessed are those who are pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of justice or righteousness, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed are you when they malign you and persecute you, and say every sort of evil against you for my sake. Falsely when they say that. When that happens, rejoice and be glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets which were before you. I also want to mention that Luke has his own rendition of the Beatitudes. And I don't have a reading of this in Aramaic yet. I'll supply one, but I'll read this for you. This is Luke chapter 6, verse 20. And he looked at his disciples and said, Blessed are you who are poor, for the kingdom of heaven is yours. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate and exclude you, maligning you and repudiating your name as evil for the sake of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and be glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for their ancestors treated the prophets the same way. Now, there are people in the left who are interested in Aramaic, and these liberal, progressive Christians, they believe, or there's some teachers saying that the words in Aramaic, as are spoken by Jesus, have mystical power. And you can align yourself with this transcendent power by speaking these words in the original Aramaic. And I don't know, I'm kind of more of a practical, rational person, and of course I do see the value in the Aramaic, but I don't know if there's like mystical or supernatural power in it. But I think there could be benefit. I mean, they're using the Aramaic for meditative and spiritual empowerment purposes, like just concentrating the words and saying it becomes like some kind of mantra to repeat, to clear your mind and to center yourself. And even Christians, in the Syriac tradition, you have the desert fathers and mothers who, like you have the Jesus prayer, for instance, and we hear this, or you can read about this in a Russian Orthodox book called The Way of the Pilgrim. And the Jesus prayer is, "O Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God, have mercy on me, a sinner." And they repeat this again and again. And it's interesting, that book is about praying without ceasing. So he learns to repeat this word, this prayer. Just whatever he's doing, he has that prayer running in the back of his mind. It's very interesting. But what I want to talk about really quick is, the left and the right and Christians on both sides of the political issue. And as far as the liberals, with me, I want to interpret the scriptures as accurately and truthfully as possible. And I feel like I have an obligation as a preacher to be faithful to the tradition that's passed down to us from the apostles. So what happens? George Lambza began teaching the words of Jesus in Aramaic, and the receptive audience he found was like Christian Science and Unity School of Christianity. So then you have Neil Douglas Klutz and other people who have taken what they've learned from George Lambza, who is an Assyrian American, actually immigrated here from the Hakkari Mountains, which was part of the Assyrian homeland, fleeing from the genocides. So he came to the United States and he began preaching about Aramaic. His background was the Assyrian Church, the East. So these people are trying to say that you have this mystical tradition from the Aramaic. And I'm going to talk about this more in my teaching about the Lord's Prayer. But I think that we need to be faithful to their traditions. And this is the Book of the Pearl, the Book of the Marganitha, on the Truth of Christianity, translated by Mar Ishai Shamoun the 23rd, the Catholicos, or the Patriarch of the Assyrian Church of the East. And this is written, I believe, in the 1200s, so you have a picture of him. And this is basically a statement of doctrine which they believe. So if you want to understand their what they believed as Christians, and it's pretty much the same core doctrines we see in the Apostles' Creed. Now, I think what's really important is knowing Jesus Christ as your Father, but that should really impact all aspects of your life, right? And primarily we should be motivated by love. By love. That's the essence of the message taught by Jesus Christ. And what has happened recently is I'm here in Texas, and in the San Antonio area, there's a place where I have family in that area, and I have friends in Kerrville. And there's this terrible flood, and I think it could be as many as 200 people died in this flood, especially, or a lot of small children, little girls died. Girls like 5 to 7 years old, 10 years old. And when I hear about that, it kind of breaks my heart. But there's these people, these leftists and progressives, they had a lot of hatred and vitriol. Oh, Texas deserves that. They're saying things like, look at these girls, they're all white. What is this, a white supremacist camp? And just very ugly, hateful things. And I'm just thinking about, a mother or father, the woman bears this child, gives birth to her, raises her up, takes care of her, this little girl, a little baby, and the father, and then the child snatched away in this flash flood. Can you imagine the sorrow and hurt and heartbreak that those parents are feeling, the mother and father? And there's several children, so many impacted by this tragedy. And I was talking to a friend of mine, she just started crying about it. And it's like, these people are posting like, well, that's what you get for voting for Trump. That's what these right-wing nut jobs deserve. And I was talking to my uncle about this, and about that, because it's here in Texas, it's affecting my state. And we're just seeing these things that these Democrats are posting. And my uncle was saying, when Los Angeles flooded, or just anywhere, or when Los Angeles burned down, we had a flood here when it burned down. I feel for people. I feel sympathy, even if these people don't vote the same way I do. Even if they don't really know God, just human suffering. If it's Hindus or atheists or whatever, when you hear a tragedy befall people and people dying, I can't gloat over that. It's like, what's wrong with these people? It wouldn't even occur. And I told them, it's like, that's because we disagree with people on the left. we don't hate them, we disagree with them, but they hate us. Why? I remember there's this script writer, film script writer, a screenwriter named, was it Nora Ephraim, something like that? She wrote these 90s rom-coms, whatever you want to call them. And she's also she hated conservatives and Republicans and born-again Christians, evangelicals. And someone asked her, it's like, why don't you try to get to know these people and understand them? Talk to them. Why just have this hate? You don't even know who these people are and you hate them so much. Why would I ever want to talk to somebody like that? That's her answer. And it's really a terrible thing that it's like, well, why do these people, they're so fueled with hate? Why? Because they see it on CNN and MSNBC. It's inculcated into them. And you see, they don't understand. They don't understand people disagree with them, people from different walks of life. All they know is what they're told by others. Oh, these people are bad because transphobe, homophobe, Islamic phobe, all these things they throw out there. They don't know any better. They believe it. And the thing is, the other thing is, like, we're saturated with left-wing propaganda, so we know what they believe, but they don't understand people that don't agree with them or from a different background. So, all they turn on CNN and they're instructed on this. But don't give in to hate. I don't hate these people. I disagree with them. And like some of these accusations they throw out against people. Like, let's look at the transgender issue. And they riled up a young woman so full of hatred in Nashville. I grew up in Nashville in a Presbyterian church school. I'm Baptist. That's my background, evangelical. But when I was a child, I grew up in the Socio-Reformed Presbyterian Church, so in the Nashville area. So that affected me, where they have this, the left, the progressives, they rile this girl up, and she goes and she starts killing children in a Presbyterian church school. And I was thinking, if my life turned out differently, I could have been in that school or in that area when that if we didn't move to Texas, we stayed in Presbyterian circles. What if I was still up there, or my family getting shot up? I felt a connection with that. I'm not a Calvinist, but still, that's part of my background. I'm not Presbyterian or a Calvinist, but that was my my formation as a child growing up. So that just hearing about some transgender, this girl who thought she was a boy going to a church school, into a Presbyterian church and just mowing people down. And it's like, well, why did she do that? She's just filled with so much hate. And why do they say that we're transphobic? A part of it's like, it's like, okay, we have little children. If a children should not, if a children can't get a tattoo, if a child cannot smoke or vote, maybe you shouldn't take an appendage, take body parts off of small children. Maybe a child should be, allowed to develop. Don't give chemicals to stop these children from developing normally into adults. Don't give them chemicals that harm, untested chemicals that harm them. Maybe it's not a good idea. And then how does the left? Oh, you're trying to harm kids. You're trying to prevent them from getting care. And it's like, no, we're trying to act in the best interest of children. Oh, you're a transphobe. You're a homophobe. And then people up in certain areas where everybody votes the same way up north, the blue states, they think that that's true, that we're just motivated by hatred. And it's not true. We're concerned about children's welfare. It's like, well, when they become an adult and they mature, perhaps that's when they can make a decision about their bodies. Not when they're small children. But then, we get these accusations against us. Or like, I've gone to the Middle East, I've lived there, I've seen Christians mistreated in Egypt, and a genocide against Christians in Syria and Iraq, and I've been to all three of those places. So I've gone over there, I've befriended people, Muslims, Christians, learned about those cultures, lived in those countries, and then, then it's like, look, we have to address the problem of radical Islam and Islamic terrorism. It has to be addressed, and we might have to have uncomfortable conversations to find a peaceful solution. But I'd rather talk about things that make people feel uncomfortable and for people to die. I want to stop the killing. I want to stop the dying. I want to stop the violence. And we can't have that conversation because once you try to have it, oh, you're an Islamophobe. all these hateful terminologies they throw around when we're acting in love. It's like, I don't want to see violence. I lived in that area. I don't want to see Christians, Muslims, or anybody be subjected to violence and extremism. I want what's best for everybody. So, what's the solution? Love. Love. Jesus said, God is love. And look at the Beatitudes here. Bless you and revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be glad. Because our motivation, we're standing up for, is love. I'm glad people on the left can get in the Aramaic and get some kind of blessing for it. I'm happy for them, But we shouldn't have just this condescending attitude, assigning people bad motivations all the time just because they disagree with you. We got to let go of the hatred and find love. Because, all the doctrines in this, but Paul talked about it. All these doctrines are important. But Paul says without love, it doesn't matter. Because love is the essence of who God is. So, when we look at the Beatitudes, I think it should speak to all of us. And words have power, but it's not just how the words sound, how they pronounce. Maybe that has power too. I'm not saying it doesn't. But it's what the words mean and how we can apply these principles to our lives and how we live. We should, these people on the left, they're all agitated about, social justice. They might be wrong about certain issues, but it's good to desire justice for people, right? But it's wrong to inflict injustices on people in the name of justice or some kind of perceived wrong that happened. Punishing people today for things that happened hundreds of years ago, right? We have to have peace, love, and forgiveness. That's the essence of the gospel. So join us next time. I'm going to do a program on the Lord's Prayer. But there are different translations. I might do a program on different translations from the Aramaic. This is from the Syrian Orthodox tradition, and the script this is the Surto or the West Syriac script. So I need to master that script a little better. I can make some of it out, but I read the East Syrian script a lot better, and it's Strangolo. But this is also a good book about a doctrinal statement of the Church of the East, and it's a very helpful manual.
Tubuayo lemaskani baru del huni malgu tadashmaya tubuayun lawile da ino netboyu Tubuayun lemakike da ino nertu arha Tubuayun lahli dekafni watsi Lakanuta Dahino Nesbun Tubayun Lam Rahmani Delehun Nehun Rahme Tubayun lahti. Datkin blebon. Dah ino. Netsuan lalaha. Tubayun lavdai shlema. Danai dalaha nitkarun. Tubayun lahlin trap metol kenuta del honi malku dadashmaya. Tubayun imat damasdin lekon waradin lekon mamrin elekon kul milabisha medolat pedagaluta adin kedau waratswa dagarku sagi bashmaya akena gir rapwa lenabia dami kadamiko.
Research, rescue, and restore. Help Voice of the Word and Aramaic Christian Ministries mission research the ancient languages, peoples, lands, cultures, and times of the Bible. Rescue persecuted Assyrian Christians in the Middle East and restore Christianity to its original Semitic roots. For Stephen Missick's books, online giving, and other resources from Aramaic Christian Ministries, visit www.stephenmissick.com. Join us next time on Voice of the Word as we research the Scriptures, rescue persecuted Christians, and restore the Church to its Semitic roots.